One of my favorite things about being a podcaster is I get to be a bit nosy. And that's what I got to do with Deborah in this episode. I got to hear about her passion and her journey to becoming a franchisor for the Reading Doctor. And I also got to get a little glimpse into how she thinks and how she leads and how she hires and how she just generally runs things. And there are a few things that I really liked, a few takeaways. One of them was how she has this determination. I mean, I had to ask her the question, why franchising? Because I'm always so fascinated by franchisors. It takes so much investment, it takes real guts to go for the franchise model. So I always asked, why that model? And what I learned from that is that she's incredibly determined. And what I was impressed with was that she was thinking like a business owner from day one. Most of us, me included, we kind of build up to it, but she was there from day one. And I also liked how she talked about her intuition, how she blends that strategy and that determination with some intuition. She talks about an oomphometer, for example. And it was really nice to hear about how specialist she is in the area that she works in, the training she went on, the game-changing moments, and ultimately, like, the amazing impact that her and the reading doctors have on children's lives. So I hope you enjoy this episode. I certainly did, and I'm really excited to share with you. So without further ado, enjoy the episode.
So I'm Deborah Salsbury, the franchisor, the owner, founder of the Reading Doctor, and I started the Reading Doctor in 2012 on my own.
And is that when you started as a franchise from day one?
No, no, no,
Or how
no.
did it start then?
So it started in 2012, and I registered the company in December 2012, which was the month and year that I left teaching after
Right.
19 years. So
Wow.
as soon as I left, I thought, right, that's it. I've got to make a plan and it's got to work. I can't just play at having a business or, have a hobby business. It has to work. So I kind of put the structure in place. So, it felt like a real business. Um, Opened a business bank account, got an accountant straight away. So I had like the scaffolding really. Yeah, that's how it started.
And what led you to really niche down into reading? I know that there's a really, like, you've had some personal experiences, but I'd be really curious to know why reading and not writing or English, like something a bit more broad. What was your journey that led you there?
Well, it's really interesting. When I saw that question, I thought, oh gosh, yes, everybody thinks we just do reading.
Ah,
And only today, earlier today, I was tagged in a post on TikTok, and I don't often check in on there, but I do go on there sometimes. And I was tagged by a parent of a child I taught 9 years ago, and just a comment that she'd made on somebody else's TikTok who was talking about dyslexia and dyslexia support, and particularly how people have misconceptions about what dyslexia is. And she tagged me saying, Deborah, the reading doctor, her method of teaching is really amazing for dyslexic children, because I taught her daughter 9 years ago. And then the original, the person who posted it said, "Oh yes, they're really good at teaching reading." And I thought, "Oh yeah, everybody just thinks we teach reading, but of course, if you teach reading well, you teach all of literacy. The way you teach will appeal to neurodivergent young people. You will also be incorporating speech and language, because that's where language starts. Reading and writing reciprocal, so they go hand in hand anyway. And actually, our session sequence that we teach to actually incorporates handwriting, which I know is very separate from writing itself. And we do teach comprehension. So that involves writing, speaking, listening, writing. And when we first assess children, we always assess their speech and language, their expressive and receptive language skills. We assess their ability, their sort of learning style, how they learn. So we don't just teach reading. And actually, if you read our reviews, it's much, much more than that. It's about the impact on mental health and everything else. However, the impact we have, I didn't really predict the full impact, because I did set out to just niche in reading. And I proudly said that and sort of dismissed anything else. And that is because I was in the slow reader group at school. I was taught behind the orange Hessian curtain in the 1980s in the remedial group, in inverted commas. And yeah, I really struggled with learning to read. So I wanted to be the teacher that I needed and that my mum needed, and my daughter, who's dyslexic, needed. So reading was sort of my inroad, but also I did something called reading recovery training, and that was probably 10 years into my teaching journey, maybe a bit further. And I thought I knew how to teach children to read. I'd been a teacher for 10 years plus. I had to have my own children. And I thought, well, I'm a teacher. Of course I know how to teach children to read. No, not until I did reading recovery training. And it was almost evangelical. It was just a moment where I was just completely hooked. I couldn't wait to go to the teaching centre every fortnight on a Wednesday. We'd go there, and it was really intense training, because every word that the lecturer said resonated. It was aligned with what I'd always believed about learning, about readiness for learning, about child-centred, problem-solving, scaffolding, prompting, not telling, all of those things. It was just so aligned, and there was no going back to working to a prescriptive curriculum that didn't do those things. So yeah, it was reading recovery training really that was the pivotal moment. Yeah.
So from all of that training, and then coupled with how you set out your business, did you develop, have you developed a specific method? Is there a specific reading doctor method that you teach?
Yes. So I knew that whatever I did, and sometimes annoyingly, it has to be like the best of everything. It's about thinking about giving those corridor children the best, the highest qualified members of staff, the best resources, the best learning environment, so that they really feel valued when they're doing something that they find really difficult or they're really embarrassed about. I didn't set out to create as many resources as I did. I knew I wanted to follow a set structure, a set sequence of sort of topics, activities during the session, but no lesson plans, because it's all about being intuitive and responsive and assessing at that moment in time and observing what the child is showing you that they know, that they do, that they can do independently, that you can then make really fast, quick decisions about what to do next with that child with all of our resources. Now, and I do always say this, you could make a business out of one of the resources that I've made, that I've created, that are all professionally produced, and we've created digital resources and more physical resources. So that has been a labour of love, really, because it's almost a joke amongst my franchisees. They're like, Deborah, you don't need to make anything else now. We have everything we need. And I'm just going, just one more tiny little thing. It's only a tiny thing. So my latest thing, for example, is a little Reading Doctor loyalty card with a stamper. that if they read any books outside of their reading doctor session, they can do a little stamp, and then they can get a reward once they've done so many. That's really for when we're working in schools, encouraging them to read outside of the session. But yeah, so yeah, it's been a long journey.
That's the exciting thing, isn't it? Is that things keep evolving, you can keep improving and adding. And congratulations with the 13 years coming up, 13-year anniversary.
6 years of franchising.
Nice. Well,
Yeah.
I'd really like to talk about the franchising. Before I do, I think something that a lot of tutors find, or, when when you're educating, having left the classroom, is kind of this difference, if you like, of how can we complement what's happening in school? What's the difference in the role of me being a teacher in school and being a tutor? And you've obviously carved something that supports a very specific aspect of how a child's educational development. How did you develop that mindset? Like, how did you get out of the mindset of, oh, I need a whole scheme of work, and I need to do this and I need to do that? And how did you really kind of tailor what you were doing to, this is the impact I want to make?
By tracking very precisely the skills and knowledge that a child needs to gather along their reading journey in order to become a confident, competent reader that reads for meaning and hopefully eventually, if not straight away, for pleasure. So we have all these skills and knowledge that go along with the book bands, and that does incorporate some national curriculum statements, but there's also lots that's missing from the national curriculum that is needed for a child to learn to read. And that's where I brought in specialists, so clinical psychologists, speech and language therapists, dyslexia specialists as well, so we can really look at those barriers to learning and break them down. So yeah, it's that creating that journey and creating a curriculum around the child, not just imparting and delivering a curriculum to the child. And that is where the one-to-one and bespoke, it has to be like that, because when you meet a 12-year-old who's got a reading age of 5 and they've been in our education system for 8 years, even if you say the word phonics, sometimes that is a trigger word for them, and you just learn not to say that word. But what we do is we unpick it, because of course teaching phonics is an important part of reading, but it's not the only part. So we will find things to do for that child that will enable them to grasp all the phonics skills that they need. And it might take more time, it might take lots of different ways, but yeah, we plug the gaps, we break down the barriers, we adapt to learning style. If a child is a mover and a groover, they might have a kinney bar underneath a foot swing under the desk, or they might be holding some popper thing. Or I've had a boy before who's hypermobile and just loves to move, and he was even reading once with his ankles behind his head quite comfortably. So we just do all of those things. We just really I know a lot of people use the word bespoke, but really it is totally and utterly bespoke, because it often needs to be. We're not doing like a nice after school activity that they absolutely love and excel at, like a sport or something. We are often, for some of the children that are first brought to us, it's the thing that they've found the hardest. It's damaged their self-esteem, impacted their mental health. They may have become school refusers. So we have to build that relationship first as well. And you can be the best teacher in the world, class teacher, but you can't meet the needs of these children that need something different.
So I suppose you saw the gap in terms of this is how, because classroom teaching is for the main, isn't it? It's not
Yeah,
for the minority.
yeah,
And so I suppose you saw the minority and you thought, right, they are the people I'm going to focus on
yeah.
because the main already have the support that's kind of working for them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it works.
Yeah.
The majority, yeah, you're right. It works for the majority. Um, but then the minority need something as well. And at the moment, what is happening in schools, in the main, not always, is that those children are getting more of the same of what hasn't worked.
Yeah.
And the old adage, expecting people are expecting a different outcome by delivering more of the same. So we almost do the opposite of that. We just, I think it's Rory Sutherland, just said, I think he mentions make small changes for big impact. And that's what we do, just little tiny tweaks along the way. And we just never really know until the session is happening what that tweak is going to be. And the thing that the reading doctors get is all the resources that they can pull into the session at any moment in time to work with that child. And that's why we don't compromise on the one-to-one. We do face-to-face, but we also do online, which I never thought I'd compromise on, but we have. We obviously had to do that in lockdown, and it's worked. But we do send them practical resources to work with us online through the post. So it kind of, had a compromise there.
Yeah. And what I quite like is that you've created a method that's quite unique to the reading doctor. And the
Mm.
reason I'm that's stuck in my mind is because a lot of, I don't know, like a lot of business coaches will talk about how there is a real value in having a method because
Yeah,
people feel like they're buying into a framework, something that is very intentionally designed.
yeah,
And I just want to shine a little light on that because a lot of tutors, a lot of education business owners they struggle with, well, what's my unique selling point? What's that one thing that I can really talk about? And of course, the impact and transformation is so important. But a really good way to stand out is by having a method. And of course, because you have niched, even though I know that reading isn't all you teach,
yeah,
but that feeds it, that's the fine light outcome that you're aiming for.
yeah.
Because you've got that niche, creating a method around that has been in a way a lot easier. And I'm presuming, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm presuming that's made selling what you do a little easier as well, because you're very clear on what you're communicating.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I, I don't know. It's going to maybe sound a bit, um, not smug. It's the wrong word, but
Be
I,
smug.
yeah, it's a bit smug. I just almost don't feel like I'm selling anything. I
Yeah.
know I am, but I just, when I meet a teacher, say I'm on a call like this, and they're telling me all their frustrations, and it reminds me of how I felt in the education system towards the end. And I just think, this is going to be the best thing you've ever done because you can get all that. And then they're talking about what they love about teaching. I just think, well, you can have that. You can absolutely have that. And you can have autonomy as well, because it's important. It's not too prescriptive. I want the reading doctor's personality to come into it as well, and their strengths, to utilize those. So yeah, it's an interesting business model. I know, yeah,
Yeah, it is. And I think that because, I mean, the name is fantastic, the name's genius. And, but because you have this very specific method, because you have I think you called them a sequence, was it? Is that
sessions.
what you call it? Session
Yeah,
sequence? Because you've got that structure in place, I think that gives a lot of confidence. And I think that when people, tuition and learning is changing a lot in terms of the traditional models of, a tutor coming to your house, teaching you something related to the subject, walking away, cash in hand. That's not really what the industry is now. And people like you are selling particular programs to schools. And so people are receptive to different ideas. And I think it's very important to start thinking innovatively because we can. We
yeah,
can now.
yeah. And the one thing
People,
I heard you talking about on one of your interviews, you were talking about it was like the language you use in your marketing and about tuning into the language that the parents, ultimately your customers, are using. And I've very much done that in evolving the reading doctor because if you listen to not just the parents, but the pupils, they basically tell you what you need to do.
Yeah.
They give you all the solutions because they tell you what the problems are. They present those problems to you, and if you have that problem solving mindset, you think, well, how am I going to help children overcome that? So yeah, I think that was something I really picked up on from a previous podcast you did. I thought that
I
was
think,
really good.
well, thank you for mentioning it. I mean, I think that I think what you've actually mentioned there is really valuable because if someone is wondering, what do I write in my marketing? What do I write on my website copy? What do I say in discovery calls? How do I niche? What should I offer? Should I create a course? Like you said, your clients or your potential clients actually give you all the answers. You just need to ask the right questions and pay attention. And I think that that's a very liberating concept because as business owners, we often think it's down to us to come up with the ideas, us as the expert, so to speak. But ultimately, if we're not catering to the people that we serve, if we're not really connecting with what they're telling us they want,
Yeah.
are they going to trust us and are they going to buy?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, in 2012, when I left teaching and all the one-to-one interventions like reading recovery was starting to be stripped away, that's where I had this flash forward. And I literally thought, in 10 years' time, there are going to be so many children that are not fitting in this system. They're going to be sort of left behind, for want of a better word. But also, I predicted this school refuser culture, and problem, that we're faced with, and the increase in home ed. I just had this flash forward into the future that this was what was going to happen, and education would become reactive rather than preventative. And I've said this before, but it was only probably a year afterwards, on reflection, leaving teaching, it was actually like a grieving process. And it was, yeah, awful at the time. Even though I was going on to do this exciting / scary thing, I was really sad that I was leaving. I wasn't completely elated at all. 19 years in the same school as well. It was really hard. But I knew I was needed, and rather than getting sad about it, I thought, right, I've got to do something about it because I have a skill here. And then, parents of the school where I was teaching started following me and recommending me. And then before I knew it, I was fully booked and going into schools, going into a pupil referral unit and working with older children as well and teenagers, which I hadn't done before, which was really exciting. So yeah, but it was, I never underestimate how tricky it is when my reading doctors come on board. For them, they're going through a lot of emotions when they're leaving. It's, so yeah, tricky time, but I'm, yeah, so glad I did it.
Oh, well, yeah, of course, of
Yeah.
course. And something you said about the flash forward you had, I think is a very important thing that we all should be thinking about because things are always changing. And right now, the conversation is very much around AI and chat GPT and stuff like that. And that impacts every single one of us in some shape or form. So let's say you have a business where you sell resources. Well, are people going to continue paying for that if they
Mm,
can actually just create their own? And
yeah,
so, what's your response to that? How are you going to future proof to make sure the value you're bringing to the table continues to be needed, continues? Well, even if the need evolves, how are you going to create something that's fluid enough to fill that evolving need? So,
yeah,
that flash forward you had goes to show how powerful it is. And regardless of what point of time you're in, there's always going to be changes in 10 years' time. So, thinking about that as a business owner, as an educator, all of it is actually really important, especially now where things are changing fast.
it's exciting. I find it really exciting. I
Yeah.
mean, AI is like the gift I've been waiting for
Yeah.
all my life. Being dyslexic, I have got that big picture thinking, that creative thinking, um, ADHD traits, impulsivity. Like I want to solve something straight away. And I know all the things to kind of put into like AI, if you like. And so for me, it's brilliant because my weaknesses are still sometimes my weaknesses, like my spellings and things, just really don't matter anymore. I
Yeah.
mean, I started to realize it didn't really matter probably when I left being a teacher. But now I think, we've got all of these things that can help with the weaknesses. So yeah, but in terms of future-proofing it with AI and reading doctors creating their own resources, going off and creating their own resources, yet anyone will be able to do that. But obviously with what we've created, there is so much more, and really it mirrors what we've done with our teaching, that it's bespoke, it's based on relationships first. It wasn't me that said this, but one of my reading doctors shared on an internal platform that she'd found her tribe. She said, I've found my tribe. I can't believe every time a new reading doctor comes on, it feels like it's someone I've known forever. And they all,
Lovely.
two of them went on a spa day the other day together. They didn't know each other before they came on board as franchisees. So that people are making friends through it as well. So that to me is just as important as the teaching, is the culture within the network. Really important.
Yeah. Well, there's the whole, you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So, whether we call it a tribe, a community, a team, like whatever we call it, being around the right people actually makes a huge difference to every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
I realized it myself. I went through a couple of situations this year where, negative situations were putting me in a negative mindset that was impacting decisions I was making, my motivation levels, and kind of removing that impacted even down to like how healthily I was eating. It sounds
Yeah.
ridiculous,
Yeah. No, I
but
completely
it
understand
affects
that.
everything, doesn't it? So
Yeah.
it
So
is just hugely important, however you do it. And also, like something, I don't know whether I've recorded this podcast episode and haven't released it yet. Yeah, I think I've recorded it, but haven't released it yet. There's one that's coming up where I talk about unpicking what right means when you think about the right people around you. Because actually, like what you're talking about are a group of people who are passionate about the impact they're making, but they have this real growth mindset and
yeah.
they have the same kind of methodology, like belief around what's effective teaching. And obviously, they're going through the journey together, the highs and the lows. Whereas I think sometimes we feel like the right people around us are people who feel exactly the way we do right now. And
Mm,
while that can give you comfort, it can also keep you standing still.
yeah. Yeah. And yeah.
So, actually, I think that community that you're building and the culture that you're building is really important. And then ultimately, that impacts the children you work with as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, completely. And I always thought, thinking about creating a community and like a tribe like I have, I look back on my early teaching days and how I just remember just thinking this sort of out loud to myself. Um, it's my job as a class teacher to find something great about every child that I teach, and then if it's appropriate to use that strength to bring, to celebrate that, and maybe to help them as well with some of their weaknesses. And within the Reading Doctor network, that's exactly what I do. I hardly ever outsource anything because I've got 30 plus amazingly clever, creative, highly skilled, passionate individuals. If I want to get, help with social media, I'll pair up with one of my reading doctors who's really super passionate about that. I've got, a lot of my reading doctors have dyslexia qualifications, like diagnosing and teaching. So the one that has the diagnostic, she delivers the training on dyslexia. And that's what I've done straight away. So we have 20 training modules when you come on board. And I only deliver 5 of those, and my franchisees deliver all the other modules because they've got an extra qualification in it, or a particular interest in it, or just a passion through being a reading doctor. They've developed that passion. So that also cements that kind of feeling of us all in this together. We're on a mission together. And I think probably the hardest thing this is probably the next question, but the hardest thing for me is I just don't like to see myself like even perceived as above the franchisees. And I know sometimes I have to be like the big boss. And one of my jokey franchisees, he's a guy who I worked with at that pupil referral unit. That's how I met him 10 years ago. He likes to call me the boss because he knows it just makes me cringe because I'm not actually his boss. But yeah, that's the thing I've probably struggled with a bit, because I like to be doing the doing, which I still do, which, yeah, I'm going to cling on to that forever, hopefully, actually, even if it's just a little bit, because I just absolutely love the teaching. So yeah, that is something I've struggled with, is sort of shift, like the balance has tipped now more towards me being franchisor and not so much tutor, but I still do both of them. Yeah, sorry, I've
Yeah.
probably gone to your next question a little bit.
No, not at all. I think that mindset shift is really hard because majority of us enter as the doer, as the deliverer.
Yeah, yeah,
And and I think even if you're self-employed, so let's say you don't have a team, you don't have a franchise, and you are the person delivering, it's still quite important to take the step back and wear the other hat and
yeah,
look at things as a whole rather than looking at the microcosm of the very thing that you're doing and looking at the tiny little things.
yeah.
I think that's a huge part of business development, of growth, of getting really innovative ideas. You have to take that step back. I wanted to ask you then about franchising. So obviously you must have reached a point where you were like, I want to take this, I want to impact more children than I can alone. What secured your decision to go down the franchising route and not just, let's say, building a team?
Well, first of all, the whole expansion to go beyond me wasn't me. It was a lot of other people wanting to get on board with what I was doing. Or can I come and work for you? Can you employ me? And it was a lot of different people from different parts of my life that were, or just, family saying, oh, it's great, amazing that you're so successful, fully booked, but you're only impacting 30 children a week. So, little nudges like that just made me do my own research. So I started to think about, I think my dad had always put me off employing people. He's always had his own business, and he just said, all the problems I've had in my business have always been related to people letting you down. So I thought, well, how can I get people involved in the Reading Doctor where they're investing a bit too? So they've got more ownership of it. So they're in with me, not working for me. And it was definitely that kind of thinking. So then I just did my own research, literally Googled it, I think, and it came up as licensing or franchising. And then there was at the time something on the .gov website where you could almost do like a questionnaire, like, do you want to do this? Will you do this? And it was almost like, wasn't a Venn diagram, it's not Venn diagram, spider one, can't remember now. The
A
one that,
diagram.
yeah, diagram. Where it goes down like this.
Oh, like a flow chart type
Flow
thing.
chart, that was it. Should have been a flow chart, but it was basically like, you should do franchising, you should do
Right.
licensing. And because of the way the vision I had, it was definitely more the franchising route. And at the time, I was a member of the Tutors Association, and I phoned the then president, Tim Morris, and said, I am thinking of doing this. Do you think it's franchisable? And he just said, this is, you just need to go for it. Well, he didn't say that. He spent about 2 hours talking to me, actually, very generous with his time. And he had a lot of experience of franchising, and he'd worked for another big franchise, tuition franchise. So yeah, he kind of sort of gave me a bit of confidence, really, to explore further. And then I called a local lawyer who then said, well, you need a franchise agreement and we can do that for you. I mean, later down the line, I had to rip that up and start again when I went BFA accredited, but that's another story. So yeah, that's what led me to it. So I wanted, like you said, first of all, about impact. Absolutely. I wanted to amplify the impact. I knew I couldn't do it just on my own. And I knew it would be really, really, really important, the kind of people I got on board as
Yeah.
well. And I knew in the early days, I remember thinking, I should have done this really. I remember thinking, I want to create like an oomphometer, like they've got to have oomph. So I need to have like this criteria that when I'm chatting to them on like, it's called a discovery call. Oh, I mean, in business, it's probably called a discovery call. In franchising, it's definitely called a discovery call when you talk to potential franchisees. And, you know, I sort of just even like buzzwords that they say, and someone said they should be somebody that you'd want to go for a drink with. And that drink might be a coffee, it might be a cocktail, it might be any drink, but it should be somebody you think, oh yeah, I'd like to go for a drink with you, even if you weren't even thinking about doing business with them. And so I always held that in the back of my mind. And then, yeah, I just started looking at other franchises and realizing like the classes that I'd taken my girls to when they were younger were franchises, and I didn't even know it. You know, some of the music franchises, there was Computer Explorers, I think they used to go to, and I had no idea it was a franchise. To me, we were just going to, you know, an after school club or a, you know, preschool music thing. And yeah, and I mean, franchising still, I feel in the UK is seen as a bit of a dirty word. And I just don't know why, because anybody I meet who's got a solid business model in whatever sector, I would always, always encourage them to franchise. I mean, in America, it's just what you do. You have a great business, you replicate it. You give, you know, you give other people a head start, they can pick it up and run with it themselves. So to me, it's a real no-brainer for a successful business. But I had to learn it all, which was really exciting.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that because I didn't know franchising was a dirty word. I had no idea that that was a culture here.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
I didn't know that. I mean, what's really good. So I always ask whenever I meet franchisors, if I ever interview them, I always ask why franchising because it's a big investment. You know, before you start making any money,
Yeah.
you are
Huge.
spending a lot and it feels like quite a big risk. And so I'm always fascinated what gives people that courage to go for it. And you're the second person who has said it was my dad or my mum, it was a parent that put them off because they said the same thing as what you just said, that your dad said all the problems he had was with,
Mm,
people letting him down. And
yeah.
so I find that's really, I wonder if I interviewed like 20
Yeah.
franchisors, if a lot of them would have similar answers. But it is a very courageous, a very bold move,
I mean, that wasn't my main sort of
No, I
reason.
know what you mean, but it's
But
one of them. Yeah,
yeah, it's just one of those, you know, like being the daughter of a dad who always, always had his own business. And I saw that some people did let him down or rip him off, or I mean, you can still get ripped off if you're a franchisor, but I saw that happening. So it kind of made sense to me that
yeah,
he kind of just carried on his own. He didn't franchise. He should have
yeah.
done.
Well, I mean, when it comes to investing money, many of us struggle with it to different degrees.
Mm,
Whether it's investing in business support, whether it's investing in a VA or a team or software or whatever it might be, a lot of us really struggle with it. And of course, the thing that fills us with fear is this an investment? Am I going to make the money back and then some?
yeah.
So when you were in that position where you decided, okay, I think I'm gonna go for this, what gave you the courage to say, I'm going all in? Because it's all or nothing. You can't sort of test it, can you? You have to have things in place, at least the
Yeah.
legal stuff, before you say yes to someone.
Yeah, and the legal stuff, about £10,000 for the agreement before you even start. And that's, you know, sometimes when you spend money on business, you get this tangible thing, or, you know, it's literally just some pieces of A4 with this writing on it. it was just my unwavering desire to fulfill this mission to unlock the potential in struggling readers. I just knew I kind of owed it to the next generation to do that. And I wanted to pass my skills on as well and what I'd learned. And I mean, it was scary. And I still, I have carried on investing and investing in resource development, particularly. But yeah, I think it's just maybe that intuition thing that this is going to work, I'm going to make it work. And I think maybe when you invest more, it makes you work harder for it. And yeah, and seeing like there's different types of investment as well. Like I invested in a cleaner and an ironing person, and got those kind of like HelloFresh type meals. And so everything that I could do to buy back my time as well, that I saw as an investment. Because as a friend, when you start out as a franchisor, I'll always be really honest with people who want to franchise, brace yourself, because you will work 20 however you think you're going to do it, it's 20 hours a day, every day, 7 days a week to start with. You do not reap the rewards straight away. It takes a long time. So you need to be in it for the long game. Yeah, and I just genuinely knew that I could provide something that other teachers could pick up, and I wanted to create something that I would have invested in. So hand on heart, if I'd have found what I've created now 13 years ago, I'd have jumped at it. I would not have even thought about starting from scratch myself. I would have been like, that is exactly what I want to do. So especially because I have got that, that mindset where I want to keep on learning. You can still do that. And many of my reading doctors have gone on to do that, but they've gone on to do their dyslexia qualifications whilst being a reading doctor. So they have got that growth mindset. So I would have still been able to do that if I'd have picked this up myself as a franchisee.
Yeah.
But there was nothing like it, and there's still nothing like it. So yeah, just waiting for somebody to copy. It's meant to be the best form of flattery, isn't it? But yeah, good
Supposed to
luck.
be.
Good luck.
It's supposed to be. I mean, something I really like, I mean, just as we come to an end of our conversation, something I really like about everything you've talked about is that it's been this lovely blend of sort of strategy and solid decision making, but also a bit of intuition. So things like the omphometer and things like, would I want to go for a drink with this person? And I like that because we can often get wrapped up, like it's hard to live outside the spreadsheet, so to speak. It's really hard to make a decision if you don't have something really tangible. And we sometimes ignore our gut instinct and that feeling. But I think that's, you can't teach it. It's something you have to trust in yourself and tap into. But I think it is a really important thing to couple with the strategy part and the data part and, all the things that are tangible that a good business coach or a good course or something would teach you. But coupled with that has to be that intuition, because someone else might have met you. Let's say you hadn't spoken to Tim Morris and you spoke to someone else and they said, oh, not sure. I think that's a really big risk. The payoff, you're gonna have to wait a long time for your payoff. That could have gone differently if you hadn't had that really strong intuition that,
Yeah.
like, I know this is going to work. I just
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. But it was non-negotiable. And I think you do have to have real guts as well. And I am very much like, yeah, I'm going to do that because I know that's right. Or no, I'm definitely not going to do that. I hardly ever am in the middle. It has to just feel really right. And I'm not saying that everything that I've done that I've thought is brilliant has ended up like sticking, but most things have. And I think that's being prepared to sort of fail, if you like, or I don't really see it as failing, but trying and it's not quite working. That trial and error is really important as well. And I've been through that with some of the resources I've made. I think being dyslexic has really, really helped me about not worrying about making mistakes. Well, as I've come to terms with my dyslexia, that was first recognised when I was at university doing an English degree.
Oh, wow.
Or English B.Ed, you know, a B.Ed honours I did in English literature. Um, and yeah, and so I've, you know, I've had so many coping strategies over the years when I haven't been able to do something, or it's taken me 10 times longer than anyone else to do it, or I've made massive mistakes, because I've got, it's, you know, a dyslexic, like phonological confusion where I've misunderstood something. And now I just go, it's my gift. It's because I'm dyslexic. That's, you know, that is, and if I wasn't dyslexic, and if I hadn't had a mum who was dyslexic, and I hadn't had a dyslexic daughter, probably wouldn't, well, almost certainly wouldn't be doing this now.
Yeah.
Don't know what I'd be
So
doing.
it really has been a gift, hasn't it?
Really has, it really has. And I have to, when, you know, I spot dyslexic traits in young people or even adults that I meet, I find it really hard sometimes because I want to go, congratulations, you're dyslexic. And then I think, oh no, because, you know, they haven't been through that process that I've been through yet, or maybe found their coping strategies, or just identified their strengths. You know, it happened yesterday with the dishwasher repairman. I was like, I know you're dyslexic from all your strengths, from all the things I'm seeing about you. I know you're dyslexic. And then I just start talking about a few things. And he was like, no, probably I'm dyslexic, actually thinking about it. And so, yeah, it's definitely been, yeah, it was a struggle when I was younger, but
Yeah.
it's been the thing. So that's why what I've created, we can get inside the brains of those children that struggle, because I've been that person, I've been there. So yeah, building a business out of a passion. And I did write down, I did want to get this in actually, because have you read the book or listened to the book as I do, Anything You Want by David Sivers?
No.
And so, yeah, there's a few things that he said. So business is not about money. It's about making dreams come true for others and for yourselves and for yourself. And I thought, yeah, there's that. Yeah, and then the other thing that rang true was when he said, if it's not a hell yeah, it's a no. And I thought, yes, that is me. That is absolutely me. There's no middle ground there. But obviously money is important, because if you haven't got money, then you can't reinvest in your business and you can't pay your bills and things like that. So, but yeah, another thing I would say is surrounding yourself by other really good business. I think I've learned more from other business owners than anything else. And I've been on a few like business coaching days, which have been invaluable. I like the one-off days. That really suits me because I get excited meeting new people and learning new things. So yeah, if you ever do an in-person coaching day, I'm there.
I've had a few people ask. I think I just don't even have the bandwidth to organize something in person. I'm so used to online. But one day I will. A few people
Yeah,
have
oh,
mentioned
yeah.
that.
It's just, yeah, I am very much about people and
Yeah.
interaction, and which is great, because if you're a business owner in the tuition world and the franchising world, you get to go to loads of
Yeah.
events and meet lots of people, and then become part of those communities as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, probably many tutors that leave the classroom, that's one of the things they worry about, is that they're not part of a community. But there's so many groups, you know, like your Facebook group, your business coaching group, lots of organizations that do bring people together. And yeah, so very exciting learning all the business lingo and the
Yeah, well,
business.
I mean, there's stuff in everyone's niche, but there's also stuff outside of that. Like, I live in Windsor and I often see these groups who get together for running, or there's a reading, what do you call it, a book club. There
Yeah,
are people who are just small business owners in the area who get together, all from all different places. And it's not, there's no pressure to it. There's no kind of format. I haven't been to it, but this is what I've read about it. And so, there's a variety of things around us. But when I don't know about you, but when I left the classroom, I didn't even think to look. I
Oh,
didn't
I did.
even,
I went to loads. I
did
went to
you? So I didn't, I
loads.
didn't even
Yeah,
think, I didn't even think that it existed. So I didn't
yeah.
even know that I should look for it. Um, but Deborah, thank you so much for sharing so generously and honestly. I think you've said so many really valuable things. And I think my favorite thing is that intuition, is the fact that there is plenty of space for business strategy and for making really solid decisions. And that is so important, especially when you're investing your time and money. Time is just as valuable, and we often don't value it as much as, hesitating to spend money. But both are really valuable. But I do like how you couple that with that gut instinct. I
Mm,
think, yeah, that's just something that's intangible, but very powerful. It can really steer us and guide us.
yeah,
So
yeah.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. If someone was interested in actually looking a bit into the Reading Doctor, if they were interested in seeing a bit more about what you do, where can they go?
They can go to our new website, thereadingdoctors.com, and there's a tab called Become a Reading Doctor, and they can download our information booklet that has everything on there.
Lovely. Oh, well, thank you so much. It's been lovely chatting to you. Thank you for being on the podcast.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.